Hey guys, we got a special mini show tonight. Well, for now, and then we got a real show here in a little bit. But Randy Pace is sitting in. He is the chair of Knoxville's GOP. We're going to ask some basic questions about some things that are going on currently, things that are going on in the future, and just like we always talk about, trying to understand better about what's going on. So I'm going to shorten the intro because we want to get down to business so we can get as much in as we can. And then I think he's going to stick around a little bit for the big show, and we'll go from there. So get this thing out of the way. Randy, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you stopping in today.
Man, Sal, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to be here, brother.
Yeah, we've talked back and forth in text message and stuff, and I'm very curious on how this whole debacle goes. And we're trying to we didn't think anything would actually happen, and so we just started talking to people. And as things go, people mention names, and then names get dropped, and then it's like, well, if anything, that you get assistance from the Democrats in this one because Matt Shears reached out to me because one of his candidates was on, and I guess told him about it, and he listened to it, and he called me up or emailed me, and said, "Hey, if you think it's great what you're doing, if you need any help finding any candidates or anything, let me know." And so I started a little bit of dialogue with him, getting a hold of some of the candidates. The big Super Monday that I did on August 3rd was mostly thanks to him because I was trying to squeeze a bunch of people in, and that's all I had. So I was like, well, I got to be fair. I got to find who this GOP guy is, and then that was you. And I can't remember who gave me contact for you, or if I think I just found you on the internet. But so then I reached out, and then we've gone back and forth a little bit. And you just got back from Nashville.
Yeah, I went over to Nashville this morning. My wife and I. My son is starting at MTSU.
Oh, okay. That's what I was curious when you said it, because you did say Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
And then you said Nashville this afternoon, and I was like, now I'm confused. But yeah, I got a good friend of mine. Her son's a freshman there this year too.
He's a junior.
Yours is a junior?
He did 2 years at Pellissippi.
Oh, I gotcha.
Took advantage of the free tuition at community college.
Uh-huh.
Tennessee did a spectacular thing putting that in place. Helps a lot of folks. Anyway, so yeah, he's a junior at MTSU. My daughter, his sister, graduated from UT Chattanooga last fall.
Go Mocs.
So, yeah, go Mocs.
Yeah, I try. There's another podcast I used to listen to a lot that one of the guest hosts, anytime they mentioned like a random university, like he made it a point to make sure he knew the mascot was. It was just one of the funny little isms of that show that I enjoyed. Okay, so to me, the big one going on right now today.
Yeah, I'll go to. I'm going back to Nashville next weekend, and for the reason you're going to.
For the reason I'm talking about. Okay.
Well, no, actually, that's not why I'm going. I'm going for another reason. It just happens to coincide with the same meeting, same group of people, but I was going for another reason. Anyway.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with a little bit quick mini backstory if you guys haven't heard about it yet. The Gina Oster campaign is challenging the results of the primary election against Eddie Mannis. Is that the right verbiage?
Yeah, I guess in a nutshell, yeah. But she's her challenge is being posed to the state executive committee, who acts as the primary board for the Republican Party.
Right.
So she's not challenging the results of the election in a traditional sense. Did all the ballots get counted properly, et cetera, et cetera. So
okay, because if I was reading the Compass article on it, that's really the only source for local politics I go to anymore. The way I read it was that, and I guess maybe it's a Tennessee thing too, because the way Tennessee does their ballots, and Matt Shears was telling me about this last week, is that Tennessee's kind of weird. Is it doesn't matter what you're registered as, you go pick the ballot the day of. You don't have to, if you're a registered Republican, you don't have to take a Republican primary ballot. And the way at least it read to me, in my limited understanding of the world that sits in front of me, is that the chief complaint from the Oster team was that a number of registered Democrats pulled Republican ballots, and that's what gave Eddie the advantage. Is that correct understanding, or am I just pulling things out of the sky?
Okay, so let me start by the political process, how it works in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Every state writes its own election laws. I've lived in 7, been politically active in probably 6 of the 7. I voted absentee in Tennessee for about 10 years after I joined the Navy. Helped register thousands and thousands of sailors to vote in their hometown. Stay active. It matters who governs. You got to vote. Your vote matters.
Right.
So, like I said, every state writes their own election law. In the state of Tennessee, we have what's referred to commonly as open primaries. And essentially what that means is the state of Tennessee doesn't require voters when they register. And you can register to vote at the DMV. You can go to the Knox County Election Commission and register to vote in Knox County. And every county has their own election commission. So when you register to vote, you don't declare party affiliation. You are simply registering. You're saying, I'm 18 years of age. I'm not a convicted felon. I haven't been disenfranchised by law because I violated some felony statute.
Right.
So because I'm 18 years old, sound mind, I can register to vote. You don't declare party affiliation, and when the county or state government conducts a primary, and primaries are designed for political parties to name their candidate for a general election. So when we conduct primaries, it's partisan. You're either part of the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, or you don't affiliate at all. If you don't affiliate at all in the state of Tennessee, there is no primary for you. There is no independent ballot. There is no third party, if you will. And there's a whole process to get that on a party's name on the ballot.
That's on my bucket list.
Right.
Right.
Short answer is there was a primary, and because of the way Tennessee does their primaries, you declare your party affiliation in accordance with the Tennessee Code annotated, the laws of Tennessee, and you say, I want to vote in this particular primary. This is the party I affiliate with, and you pull that ballot and you vote.
Okay. So basically you're declaring, every time you go for a primary election, you're declaring at the box when you pick which ballot you want, instead of like other states do it where it's on your voter
It's already
registration.
on there, and you can only vote in the primary that you've already declared or registered as.
Right. And so, okay, so if I'm following what you're saying, is that the point of the primary is for the party to help the party pick who they want as their candidate.
Right.
And
to allow them to nominate their candidate for the general election.
Okay, and so I don't know, the issue with Eddie Mannis right now is that he's not Republican enough or whatever, and we don't need to go down that road if we don't want to, as far as the specifics on how that side of things works. And so essentially, because I know there was issues with Eddie even getting on the ballot as a Republican, and so is it just a continuation of that same conversation? Is that it was Eddie shouldn't have been here in the first place, and you let him stick around, and he won this election, but you still are supposed to choose me because I'm the real Republican in the conversation?
All right, so
I'm an idiot. I don't know if we've explained this correctly, because I don't understand this.
So let's be clear. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There just
stupid,
isn't.
There's stupid people asking questions. Yes,
yeah,
I know.
Well, no, there's not stupid people asking questions. There's people that want answers, and sometimes they don't get the answer they want, and all of a sudden there's something wrong because I didn't get the answer I wanted.
Right.
So,
well, to defend myself
and
real small.
And that wasn't a dig at you. That was just in general.
Right. And it's I want the answer that I can understand, because that's my problem right now. Is that I don't.
So again, in the state of Tennessee, there are two political parties.
Right.
And we conduct primaries in the state of Tennessee for those two parties. We don't do it for anyone else.
Right.
We don't do it for independents. We don't do it for the Green Party. We don't do it for the Libertarian Party. All of those people can get on the ballot. They can establish a party, go through the process, and it's a legal process. So because there are only two parties, both parties have a set of bylaws, rules of the road that govern how they conduct business.
This thing that you brought?
Yeah, I brought you a copy, and that's publicly available to everybody. They can go to the party of their choice, their website. The state party maintains a website, and in doing so, they have to provide the party's bylaws, rules of the road for that party.
So for everybody's knowledge, it's about 20 pages.
40 something.
What he said. I was trying to be nice.
Addendums and
and it's all
and
legalese.
and well, it's not all legalese. So, and they're revised. So, in the same vein that we have bylaws, we have elected representatives, people elected by the same people that elect candidates to public office. And it's partisan. Each party has a executive committee that's elected. Now, these individuals generally are a man and a woman from every senatorial district throughout the state. 33 senatorial districts, you got 66 members of the state executive committee.
Okay.
And as I said a moment ago, they are, in fact, the state primary board. They're the ones that ultimately make the decision whether an individual's name appears on the ballot or not as the standard bearer, if you will, for that political party. They have the authority to do that, the legal authority to do that. Outlined in those same bylaws are minimums or benchmarks that have to be met for you to be able to run as that party's standard bearer.
Right. And when Kyle Ward was here, I was talking to him about that stuff, and and he had some issues, but it wasn't that big a deal. I guess he said he met with you and you checked him off as
actually because of the amount of time Kyle had lived in Knoxville and the amount of time he had actually been active in the political process, he didn't meet the minimum requirements
because of his service. He was what, Air Force?
Yes.
Yeah, he was off in the Air Force and didn't get to vote or didn't take the opportunities to vote as often.
So
somewhere else doing those things.
Right. So for every rule, there's an exception, and sometimes those exceptions are reduced to writing. In other words, here's the rules, here's the benchmark. You don't meet this minimum requirement. However, another example would be if a 18-year-old kid graduated high school, he wanted to be a member of the Republican Party, and he wanted to be an SEC member or wanted to run for some political office that he was eligible for.
Right.
Well, he
has no voting record.
He's 18, 20 years old. He
shouldn't be
can't
voting
meet
anyway,
the minimum requirements
right.
for voting as a member of that party. So there's an exception, and it goes, and I can't say it goes without saying. There is a process. There's a vetting process, and in this particular case, it starts with the Knox County Republican Party,
right?
Who, same thing. They are, the leadership of the Knox County Republican Party are elected by members of the party at a caucus. It happens every 2 years. And all this is laid out in our bylaws.
Right.
We have people from 89 different precincts throughout the county that gather together and say, this is who we want to lead the party.
Okay. And they picked you because you're smarter than the rest of us. So.
No. Let's be clear. I'm dumb as a box of rocks. Honestly, I'm nobody special. I'm no different than you are. I'm just a guy that wants to do the best I can for my family, my community. I believe in God. I kneel I kneel before my God and ask for forgiveness of all the bad things I do, and know that I'm saved by His grace. Doesn't apply to everybody. Not everybody agrees with me. Has nothing to do with my political party affiliation. It has everything to do with how I treat my family, how I raise my children, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Anyway.
So to finish, to put a nail in the Oster Mannis situation. Essentially, it's just the continuation.
It's complicated,
but it's
isn't that the term we generally use? Here, let me put it to you. Go ahead.
That makes me very uncomfortable because the person that usually sits in that chair is the one that always backs everything down to it's complicated.
No,
it
is quite simple.
It's what it's always been with the Eddie Mannis Gina Oster situation is that because I know that there was questions on the state level when he applied to run on the Republican ticket for that seat.
All right, so when somebody's going to run, they go to the Knox County Election Commission and they pick up a filing petition. And essentially what that is, you run around town and you get 25 signatures on your petition for the district that you choose to serve in, and then you return that to the Election Commission and they verify that you are in fact A registered voter.
Right.
You meet all the minimum requirements to run for the office that you seek. And at that point, assuming you've got the requisite number of signatures
Right,
and
and
you
they're
meet
all
all
real
those
people,
other
and they all actually live in
requirements,
the area. Yeah.
now your petition is officially accepted. Well, all this is a public record on the Knox County Election Commission website. From the moment you enter the door and pick up the petition, your name is listed.
Right.
Your address, your phone number, everybody knows who you are. So at that point, the Knox County Republican Party should have already known who all the people desiring to run in a Republican primary, who they were and what their intention was. So again, I as chairman should not pick up the list of candidates that have filed and see a Republican's name on it and go, wow, that's a surprise.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
And so then that is what happened?
That is, in fact, what happened.
Okay, so the normal process would have been Eddie should have come through you guys first.
Eddie should have made known, at the very least, Eddie should have made known to the Knox County Republican Party, the elected leadership of that local organization. That was his intent.
Right.
He's running for a state legislative seat.
Right.
Not a county commission seat, not one of the fee offices or other elected officials in Knox County. So now the rules are a little bit different for legislative seats. So he's filed the petition and he meets all the requirements. Now his name, one of two things is going to happen. His name's going to appear on the ballot or it's not. The communication between the state executive committee members who represent the state party.
Right.
We have 6 of them in Knox County. They also serve as members of the Knox County Republican Party. So because he's running for a legislative seat, the decision whether or not his name will appear on that ballot
As a Republican.
is up to the state primary board, the state executive committee.
Okay.
Now, there's, and this is where it really gets interesting.
Okay.
If you're going to run in a district, you pulled it, you said, I'm going to run as a Republican, and nobody ever says boo. And the state executive committee doesn't blink an eye, no eyebrows are raised, nothing happens, your name goes on the ballot, it's a done deal.
Right.
If somebody from your district files a formal challenge to your ability to be the Republican Party standard bearer for your name to appear on the ballot, now the state executive committee is charged with making a decision. So they gather, they assemble, they hold a publicly announced meeting, and they make that decision. So what happened in this case is they met, and there was a voice vote. What appeared to be an overwhelming majority of state executive committee members recommended to the state party chairman that Eddie Mannis's name not appear on the ballot because there were challenges filed, formal challenges filed. So at that point, it becomes the state party chairman's sole discretion whether or not that individual, regardless whether it's Eddie or anyone else,
Right.
will appear on the ballot.
Right. We have a specific, and that's what
Sure.
makes it more interesting.
That makes it very interesting.
Right. And it's not just a specific, it is my specific because you are at my home and you know that I am in his district.
So going back
Or in the district in question, excuse me.
Going back to my comment earlier about there are exceptions.
Right.
One of the exceptions to simply preventing him from being on a ballot is to have been vouched for by at least 2 members of the Republican Party State Executive Committee or Republican elected officials.
Okay.
And what in fact happened was he was vouched for by Republican elected officials.
Okay.
So at that point, Scott Golden made a determination, and rightfully so. Scott Golden is the leader of the state Republican Party. He didn't violate any rules, any laws, and we can toss it around all day whether, it should have been accepted because it was elected officials and not party not official elected party leadership.
All right, so
It's just not the way the bylaws are written.
Right,
Scott
so-
Golden made a call, and he had the authority to do so. So,
Okay, so
now
the-
we go forward.
the simple version being, all right, so Eddie kind of screwed up because he didn't go prior to his petition. He didn't go talk to anybody. He put his petition in, and then there was some complaints filed because that's the procedure. And then on filing the complaints, the follow up to the procedure is a certain number of people vouch for him. The state committee chair says, all right, he's good. So he's good because even though he is playing on the exception side of the ticket, he's not playing on the rule. He's playing on the exception side, but he is within the bounds of the normal bylaws as you brought them to me.
Sure.
Okay. So then how does what
All right. So how
So
do
I
we
see-
get to this point?
well, okay, let me
let's
see if
go-
I can
go
guess
ahead.
though. All right, so Gina's standing on the idea that he shouldn't have been permitted to be on the ballot in the first place because he didn't follow through the. Okay, no.
No.
So how are we here then?
So Tennessee Code Annotated 27115 says when you go to the polling location, you declare your party affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? And this is where the water gets a little muddy. This is where the law, the Tennessee Code, and the party bylaws were not written in legalese to the point where we define what the definition of is.
Right, they don't. Right, they don't necessarily match up.
Well, no, they match up. They match up fine. They just don't address what happens in every instance. And
right. One does, because one is not taking in the party bylaws are not taking into account the what did you call it, open ballot? Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, so voting in a primary for a party that you don't affiliate with is a Class D felony. That's the what the state law says. But the problem with the state law is it offers no remedy or penalty for doing so.
Well,
in other words, we wrote a law and it happens all the time.
That's a complaint I have. I've yelled at everybody in here, not everybody, but most of anybody is you do not write a law that cannot be enforced.
Do you remember the text? I wake up in the morning, I don't want to know
Right.
what I know
This
about
is what
your
we're talking about?
government. This is what we're talking
Man,
about.
I thought you had something way deeper and more.
Brother, I can go as deep as you like.
we got the second show when the booze starts really rolling. We can do that one. But okay, so. Okay, you're right.
Now
this,
what?
This does make my brain hurt because I'm trying to figure
Sure
out.
it does.
So the state of Tennessee has a system in place where you don't really declare an affiliation until you are going into the ballot box. So that'd be like, okay. So then shit.
So that same organization, that same state executive committee tried to close this loophole. They made a recommendation back in 2016 and said, they took a vote. They said, close primaries. We want closed primaries in Tennessee. We are the Republican Party. We help craft policy statements and issues for the legislature. That's our job. We are here to support good government. So, and as a party, as an organization, an elected organization, they said, close the primaries. This is a problem, fix it. Close them. The state legislature, there was a Senate bill and a House bill. Neither one of them made it out of committee.
I mean,
The legislature didn't take it up.
But see, what's confusing to me is because often on this show I argue as a libertarian. I would argue that if I was allowed to affiliate as a libertarian legally in the state of Tennessee, I would. We do have an LP. We do have an LP party of Knox County, and I need to find the guy and get him in here. I laugh at the idea because
I don't know who it is anymore. I knew who it was at one time, and
Right.
and he went on to be the state libertarian
well,
chair.
either way, then you might
Help
have
him
to
gather votes.
I need to, but the thing, okay. So, but the thought process that I'm having right now is that theoretically, 16 days ago, I committed a felony.
I don't know. I wasn't there. And see, that's the other thing. The way the state law is written, unless somebody challenges you at the point where you pull that petition, and there are 3 people that have the authority to adjudicate that matter on the spot, nothing's going to happen.
I mean, hypothetically, I committed a felony. Because because the problem being, and this is a conversation I'm having with a lot of different people. It's because okay, so I'm state seat, District 6, right? Not state Senate seat. Sorry, District 6.
Yes.
So
Becky Massey.
And then I had Sam Brown and Jane George on and talked to both of them. And it's like, well, Becky's not running against anybody. And after talking to Sam and Jane George, it's like, well, I'd like to vote on that one. Because it doesn't matter if I'm voting for Becky or not, because she's already got the Republican side in general.
Let me ask you this. So we have a primary election, we have a general election. Did you really want to vote in the primary for Becky? Why?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't. There was no point.
She's going to be on the ballot in November in the general election.
That's exactly the point. And so because we are an open state and I have the option, I did end up taking the Republican ballot because the Gina Eddie one was one that I wanted to get on, and the Senate one with Sethi and Haggerty and all that mess I wanted to get on as well. And so as I was looking through the full ballot that was going to be in front of me, I made the decision on Republican or Democrat to pull because there were more that I cared about on the Republican part of the primary than I did on the Democrat. Because the only one I had of any conversation was with it because I didn't have enough time and didn't put enough energy into the Senate seat that the Democrats were putting up the primary for. But I did want to get on that Republican side of that primary, and I did want to vote on the Gina Eddie situation, and I did want to vote on the Sam Jane thing. And so I have 2 here and 1 there, so I'm taking the Republican ballot. That's literally the only reason I took the Republican ballot.
All right, so let me add to your frustration and confusion. As written, the Knox County Republican Party Executive Committee can make a decision to close our county primaries.
Okay.
And we don't need the public's approval to do so. In other words, we can caucus every 2 years and say we have these offices on the ballot and we're looking for candidates, so let's vet everybody that comes through the door and let's farm and find the best and brightest. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And that's what we do, essentially. I've only been here 6 years. We're working on it.
Right, but essentially you let a short list go through and you let the populace help you make that decision. That's the current format.
Right. All right. So in my mind, we can avoid all of this one of 2 ways. Getting the public to gain a better understanding what party affiliation means and what it means to be a regular Republican voter vice a member of the Republican Party.
Okay.
And conversely, a regular Democrat voter or a member of the Democrat Party. Or more importantly, and probably, and the amazing thing about it is, if you stop and think about it, there are more things that Democrats and Republicans can agree on than they can disagree on.
Right.
So allow the Republican Party to name their nominee. Stay out of it.
Right.
You don't get involved. If you want to have or be able to name an independent party candidate because you don't like either party for whatever reason, that opportunity exists. Nobody's being disenfranchised. It's getting the public to gain a better understanding how this process works.
Apologies for the dog. The rest of the crew's coming in for the late show, and Rowdy gets excited. You guys have heard him on the show
Rowdy
before.
go.
That's what he does.
Let Rowdy go.
Man, he hurts my ears on here sometimes.
See, nobody's telling Rowdy you can't bark.
Fair point. Okay, so I still have no idea how we got to where we are currently in the Gina Oster
All right, so
situation.
I'm going to sum it up like this.
Okay.
The state Republican Party Executive Committee is the state primary board. They're going to take this under advisement or review. That's my understanding. What they do, how they act, how they respond, I couldn't begin to tell you. I will tell you this, given the lack of full and complete understanding of the document that I gave you by too many people, it's none. Regardless what happens, there is no good outcome, no good ending, and I'll put it to you this way. So I have had many opportunities to go to all different types of meetings, functions, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And having served in public office before. And served with and met many people from, anyway, suffice to say, and I'm not exaggerating, 90% of the people that serve in public office have no idea before they're elected what it actually means to fill that seat, to govern.
Right.
And part of the problem, and it starts with the political parties. If you don't affiliate, you set your hair on fire, pull a ballot, you run, you get elected, and then you're standing there going, well, I'm not sure how to, and then somebody grabs a hold of you, usually somebody within the deep state, and now we're running off the rails as a nation.
Right.
So we've got to fix this, and eliminating political parties isn't it. And I will tell you, I have been at odds. I unseated 5 incumbent Republicans in one election cycle when I won my first seat as mayor.
Right.
And I've been a Republican all my life, but I haven't always been a member of the Republican Party.
Gotcha.
So again, just getting the public to understand that a little bit better. I think going through this process, as difficult as it has been for both Miss Oster and Mr. Mannis, and I think I'll be honest with you, I think the world of both of them.
They were both fantastic for me.
So I will tell you, simply going through this process helps the public gain a better understanding. Now, I will tell you, there are people out there that are in far extremes of both camps or many camps. You know, it's the strawberry vanilla or chocolate vanilla argument.
Right.
I don't agree with my wife 100% of the time, and I married her.
Right.
So it's like, hello, let's stop arguing about what kind of ice cream we're going to have, and let's start arguing about how we're going to pay for our ice cream, whether or not we need it. You know, I've got a heart condition. You know, I can't eat fat.
Right.
My wife doesn't feed me fat. It's a win-win. I want it.
Right. Okay, so essentially the biggest issue coming out of this whole thing is going to be
what happens next.
Well, no, people.
Let's wait and see.
Well, people are assuming. I mean, the assumption is going to be that the vote didn't really count, and it's the behind the scenes that are pulling the strings, even though by the bylaws it's within the realm of what's happening. So if Oster pulls, if this goes through and Oster takes the spot in the November election, the optics are going to be bad in the sense that she stole that back from Eddie or whatever. But the inverse is going to be, well, Eddie's not properly Republican enough. He didn't do his
it's not
paperwork and stuff
all right.
right.
So
and that's why it got taken away.
All right. So hold on. It wasn't a matter of not doing the paperwork right. There were a lot of other things that went into that determination.
Right.
And specifically as it relates to the rules in the bylaws. So let me say this. Even though and I have not seen, you know, an official record of it because I don't have a hand in it.
Right.
This is out of my wheelhouse.
Right.
now.
This is state level, not
this
county.
is state
right.
level. So what's going to happen is it'll come to the floor. They'll make a decision. Regardless the decision they make, if they say, you know, all right, too many Democrats participated in the Republican primary and they violated the intent of state law.
Felons.
Well, nobody's going to jail. Let's be honest. All right. So anyway, even if that happens, that's no guarantee that Gina Oster automatically goes on the ballot. At that point, being the state primary board, it's up to the state executive committee to make a determination. Now, what do we do?
It comes. It's the word. It's like a contested primary. Is that what's?
So
it doesn't even become a.
That there was people that are registered Democrats that polled
I
a
don't know what
Republican ballot.
I don't know what the details are.
I have no idea. All right. So this is really what I wanted to have the one-on-one part with.
Yeah,
so I wanted to try to get a.
Are we any better off?
No, I'm still way confused. But hopefully somebody will listen to it and be less confused. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and do the big show here in just a second. All right. So for you guys listening, that was an attempt to explain what's going on in the Gina Oster Eddie Mannis situation. So we'll put that out as a special little mini sub episode because I really want to try to hammer that understanding down because it is very confusing and for most of us in here on a normal day-to-day. So we will take a quick break and we'll come back and do the regular show. Pace is going to stick around and talk to us some more. We're going to enjoy his very good IPA he promised us, and we'll go from there.